Cool. Here we are. Okay, it is Tuesday, July 11th, 2024. June 11th, 2024. Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to call names if you can just say present or here. Harriet.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Nick.
Here.
Mike.
Here.
Helen.
Present.
Sheila.
Here.
Rashid.
He said he was going to be on camera.
He is on camera.
Yeah.
He's on mute.
Yeah, yes, I'm around.
Hi. Laurie.
Here.
And Brian. Hi, everybody.
I'm here.
Deborah's not here tonight. It is her birthday, so we will wish her a happy birthday. So we have 11 members present. I'm going to quickly read through the agenda, and I'm not expecting any other guests tonight. Maybe we'll have some guests from the public. We're going to go off, begin with Harriet, just going through some meeting expectations, norms, success factors. Then we're going to move on to Sheila to go over some treasurer communications. We're going to bring back Harriet for our collaboration, communication, and accessibility update. Then I'm going to give some updates on a project group working on legislative matters. Quick update on the scholarship event successes, remote and in-person meetings, a little quick update on the swings, and then the bulk of tonight is going to be about disability pride.
Just a moment. Can you hear well enough, Pauline?
What?
Oh, can you hear well enough? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions? Oh, okay. Thanks, everybody. Miss Harriet, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. So our norms.
1 second. Can everyone hear Harriet clearly? She's sitting the furthest away from me. Okay.
Can everyone hear me? Okay.
We are good.
Okay. Good. We're working on ways to make this communication even better. And first of all, it will help a lot if we take our turns, announce our names each time we speak. I forgot to say, this is Harriet. And also, please do not use the chat because in part, certainly Pauline and I can't read it. And the other problem is it's kind of a distraction. We're gonna work really hard tonight to check raised hands so people can, or your physical hand too, I suppose. It's just all in all, be on your camera as much as you can, just the way we are sitting in this room. Now you're sitting with us, which would be great. And I feel as though I forgot one of the things I wanted to say, but if it comes back to me, I will bring it back up. Any questions? Hearing none?
Any other suggestions that people would like to add on the subject of,
Oh, I do have one more thing. Anyone who's having trouble hearing us in the room or otherwise, be sure to let us know. It gets warm in this room and we may turn on the AC again, but it certainly does cloud the soundscape a lot. And I have funky ears. I think Pauline has funky ears, and I think you have some hearing stuff too, Helen, right? All three of us, yeah.
all four of us?
All four of us, you too, right? So back to you, Holly.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing that I had as my notes was to try to keep your camera on at all times. I'm not sure if you had said that. And if you need to leave the call for any reason, to please let us know. To please, if you need to jump off the call for whatever reason, just let us know, because if we're not literally counting and we end up with not enough people who are voting on the call, we have to stop our meeting, because we have to maintain quorum. So if something happens, you need to leave, just raise your hand and let me know.
Question, are people okay if I do yoga during the group?
I think that's lovely, as long as you are able to participate fully.
Yeah, I can.
You'll be in your camera.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave on my camera.
Did you say do yoga or eat?
She's doing yoga.
Okay.
That might be a little visually distracting, Lori. This is Harriet.
Ha, ha, ha.
No, well, I like to pay attention to my friends and neighbors, you know.
Okay, Ms. Sheila, do you wanna walk us through where we are with balances? I know we wanna have a larger fiscal year budget discussion in July and some other general updates.
Sure. So I'll give you first the update where we stand as of May, the end of May, which is 11 months of the fiscal year. So we're almost to the end, and that's why in July, I'll get to that a little bit, but we'll do a little bit more on finance in July. So as of May, for the month of May, our revenue, which is the parking fines, was $12,645. And interest income of $1,085.18. So our total revenue for the month of May was $13,730.18.
Sheila, can you repeat that for the minutes?
I'll give you a copy of this.
Perfect.
So fiscal year totals to date, so we're 11 months into the fiscal year. So far, our revenue collected is $113,100. And with interest of about $8,300, so a total revenue to date of $121,411. So our current balance as of May 31st is $258,762. And our expenditures to date are $66,710. The bulk of that were last year's scholarships, which were $50,000 out of that 66. Because they hit in July or even later than that in this fiscal year. So the scholarships we just awarded will fall into the next fiscal year because they won't be awarded till after July 1st. So, you know, it just falls into the next fiscal year.
One quick question, does the Celtics game go into this year? Or does
The one we already did,
in January?
that's accounted for here.
Yeah.
The only one I didn't see on the municipal report.
Excuse me, that is not me.
What?
Says it's me talking, it's not.
Oh, now it says Sheila.
Oh, so what it does is, anyone in the room that it picks up auditory wise, it turns the camera towards, so all
No,
of us.
she's talking about the captions.
The captions.
Oh, we should tell the captioner that.
But it did then switch to my name.
I'm sorry, I thought I was
See,
answering.
we don't have our names on like everyone does on the
Screen.
video. Yeah.
that's true.
I think it's fine now. I'll watch it.
So that as I said, that the total expenditures fiscal year to date, and we're not technically tied to a fiscal year, but it's a good way to just budget and have a time period where we can just follow our revenues and expenditures. Adrian, the only one I hadn't seen on the munis report was the green cab. Did that must have gone through.
She did not send us the invoice because they invoice monthly, so we got it at the
Oh,
end
okay.
of May,
Okay.
so I'm
So
sure
that's
it will appear.
I just thought I was missing it.
But that is in process, Stevens.
So, and we will have a discussion next month on what we'll call our financial planning, and just to sort of look at estimated revenues and anticipated expenses and try to just get a handle of what we know, the projects we want to expend money for. And then as things come along, they can be added, but at least we'd have a starting point of knowing, and just, I mean, our revenues have been very healthy, our reserve is very healthy, so, but it's just a way to track what we have so far and make sure, like, we sort of understand that we have, you know, 50,000 scholarships coming up, so we know that we keep that money sort of.
66,000.
Well, we went over it this year. Oh. 66, remember we took extra, yeah, so. So I think we will have that discussion, that way we'll have 2 full fiscal years, so that I can estimate revenues on the 2 fiscal years, and just get an idea of what we would estimate. It's been pretty, pretty standard throughout the 2 years. And then we'll have, any planned projects and things that we know of. I'm just gonna use the cost from this year of projects we know, like the ball game and other things that we've done, the scholarships. And we'll have a better way to anticipate the revenues and expenditures. So we'll have the fiscal year end in June, and we'll talk about it in July.
What was that balance again as of today?
The balance is $258,762.95.
Okay. So the green cabs is probably $1,000 the most.
It wasn't like $400.
It's $400.
Oh, okay, so $400. So we're still at like
And the
200.
the other one was the T-passes, but that was done on the card.
That's on a credit card, so he put that in. T-passes were $300.
Okay, all right, so it's,
And the bus, was that already?
yeah, that's.
Bus was
that's
already
included.
paid.
So if we were to say that once the last 2 invoices, probably some other miscellaneous things I have to put in are paid, we're still at $258,000.
Yes.
But then we've allocated 66,000, even though it hasn't been paid out, that is, will be taken out towards the high schoolers, so then that becomes, or the students, so we're at 192.
Excuse me, this is Harriet. It's 5,500 per student times 12, correct?
Yes.
Well, yeah, typically, we did 12, the year before was 10, so yeah, but it was 55, but we had only, at that time approved the 55,000, and then we added the additional
16.
10,000.
I keep putting my hand up, but because I'm not on the screen, I guess nobody sees it. But I do have a question.
Please.
Is there a level which we should keep below? And when we get to a certain amount, should we start spending it?
Well,
That's a good question.
It is a good
Let's get
question.
your feedback first.
well, I think there are a lot of ways you can manage it. You can consider that money that we have in the bank reserve, that's very healthy reserve, and work with our annual in revenue. But for instance, this year so far, we've brought in $121,000, and we've spent about 67, 68 by the time we're done. So we've spent roughly a little over half of what we brought in without going back to that reserve that we have. So I think there's room for more expenditures without going too far into the reserves. But it also depends upon how the commission wants to keep a certain amount of reserve and try to stay within, because we're well within what our receipts were this fiscal year on our expenditures.
The way I see it is this money is a sizable amount is gonna keep
Yes.
coming in every
Yes.
month. And I would like to see it spent to help people with disabilities. That's why I was so happy to vote for those scholarships.
Yes, and we did go increase the amount this year, and we'll look at that again at the beginning of the year. Well, it won't be until later in the year, but in other initiatives, we've talked about other initiatives, transportation things, other, purchases. And this year we'll have more with the July Disability Pride Month events. And it isn't huge money, but we will be spending some money there.
Frank, you have a comment?
Yes, so I just want to point out something for the record. This is not taxpayer money. This is money that comes from fines from people who park in handicapped parking spots that it's
Correct.
illegal to do. This money shouldn't even exist in an ideal world if everyone was law-abiding.
Very true.
So I think that the usage of this money may fall under like a different set of
Mhm.
constraints than something that if it was taxpayer money. And I completely agree that I would love to see it spent to help people with disabilities as much as possible.
And that's why as we talk about new initiatives and when people, come up with new ideas and initiatives and programs that we can get involved with.
Anyone on the phone have any questions or comments? Harry, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention, though it's not fully developed, of course, we have a plan to provide swings for some parks this coming year, so it's wonderful that we have the resource of cash to do so. And we'll plot that out, as the weeks go on. Anyway, thanks.
And this is Holly again, I'm sorry, I'm not saying my name first. I was looking at your report from last month where you have all the items in the 66 for the scholarships that'll be paid out after
Next
this
fiscal year.
fiscal year, so at July 1 or later. And then the swings was 16,000. And then what did we vote on last month towards Disability Pride Month for July? If you don't have that right now, I can find that afterwards.
I don't, we voted for that and we voted for transportation.
Yes, that's right.
I think that was not a large amount of money, if I remember correctly.
No.
I'll have to go back in my notes.
Harry?
This is Harriet. I think it was approximately $3,000, although I can't swear to it, so we will have to go back and check it. But
For the Pride.
For the Pride
funds?
events?
yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
right.
So that's gonna be important for our discussions later today.
I think the transportation was like $500.
Yep.
If I remember correctly, okay.
So I wanted us to talk about this month to sort of start balancing where it's also our city's year end and the citywide departments are all reviewing their budgets, and there's lots of conversations going on at city council and the finance committee. And part of having a treasurer and managing our books and overseeing what gets, gone through our account and reconciling the balances is also about having a budget in place. I think, Brian, you mentioned it before about being responsible when we're increasing the amount, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, increasing the amount towards scholarships, knowing how much money are we getting every month, and including an increase for cost of living. But we shouldn't be spending more than we are bringing in, and we also need to balance the fact that we've had this growing balance over time. So if we had a system or sort of a plan in place where we decide on a balance that we would like to always maintain and not go below, we would discuss that as a group. And then also deem certain things that we've done consistently, in my mind, that would be the scholarships, that would be having a Disability Pride Month each year in July, funding those events. And then there would be other things that we would decide we'd like to put X amount aside for those monies. And then looking at sort of forecasting every month, but let's say we got 10,000 a month and we know over the year we're gonna spend 80. That's really what we're trying to get to in a very kind of circular conversation. It's so we all have clarity on monthly and what's coming in and out, but we have agreed on a proposal of where we wanna use those funds. The other thing, I was listening in to the budget hearings, and there was the revolving funds came up, and our fund was actually discussed very briefly. Forgive me, I'm looking for the piece of paper.
This is Harriet. I have one thing to add to it.
Sure.
I listened to that portion as well. And I don't know the name of the gentleman who was presenting our account. And he apparently didn't have notes with him or something, because he said we took the members of the commission to Fenway or to, whatever, our games. And it was so much beyond the members, and that was the intention, the residents, families, children with disabilities, adults and parents with disabilities, but not that that would all have to be enumerated in a budget meeting, but it would have been important not to simply say, we took ourselves to the ballpark, I thought.
That was Mastroboni.
Mastrono?
Michael Mastrobroni, he's the director of budgeting, or the budget director.
And he did, I believe he misspoke, but I agree, it was said that the, fiscal 24, so he had information about what the current budget was, and it was also said that that was twice more than what we had last year. And, I wouldn't argue that, because not knowing where things are put aside and not paid, it may look that way.
What the game itself costs?
No, it said that currently our balance was $248,000, I'm rounding down. And that at this time, at the end of April, there was 248,000. And that's a little more than double there was in April of last year. I think it might just be because of the timing and when things are paid and the balance.
Well, you know, one of the things to remember, it's only existed 2.5 fiscal years, and a lot of it wasn't spent at all. In 2023, there's like the $3,000, I think, that was spent. So that money grew and it accumulated, and it probably was more. Now we've begun to spend it,
And then it said that,
rightfully so.
the expected uses, I see some hands, just give me a second. The expected uses of these funds remain for equipment, programming, and grants, as well as operational capacity building. And I've saw that written somewhere before, but I'm not sure if that really states what we would like to be using it for. So when we talk next month about.
May I
the fund,
clarify that statement?
That would be great.
So when this fund was put into place, and then so as you all probably noted, when you were listing in on the revolving fund portion of the budget hearings, so there is a book. And so every revolving fund just has sort of a little brief, like, what is this used for? And then sort of the data around the money. And that is what was submitted, I believe, via your predecessor when it was being put together the first time. So if the commission wants to sort of alter it or whatever, then that can be a discussion and a vote at a later time. But that was just sort of the origin originally, because city council and then the public in turn wants just every year a summary of why is there, let's just say for the sake of the conversation, $250,000 in a fund, and what is it being used for and why was it created?
We are 100% aligned, Adrian. I do think it was part of the process when this was first set up. And next month, when we talk about our funds in general, that's when I think we should look at that as well. But they did say July of 23, there was an event at the Celtics game for Disability Pride Night in January of 24, and then in May of 24, scholarships for Somerville High School students. The funds used in 24 include attending commission members, attending Disability Pride Night. That wasn't meant, it's a difference in what happened than what was said, but that was not with any intention. And I think that what it says is we need to be not only discussing what our funds are for, but preparing a report. It's our responsibility to be preparing a report and to have this budget plan in place. I feel strongly we need some structure around these funds. And the more transparency that we have, that people will understand what these funds are, because there is no one like us in the city that has control over funds, let alone a fund of this growing size. So I think if we communicate better and next month we discuss as a body more about these funds, that's what I would like us to do. They also said that we had only spent $75,000 in the year. And again, it's just the timing of amounts. I think but then there was a question about if we have the ability for the commission to actually access those funds, which has been quite difficult for them over the years. And I think that a lot of these comments, I think we can educate city council and the community better if we were to produce a report, a very simple report saying, these are the funds, these are the things, the timing isn't something when things are getting paid that we need to go into great detail. But I think if we were, like you say, these are the deposits, this is the beginning balances, these are the projects. And these are the things that we will consider each year going forward. And then all of that needs to get put into our bylaws.
Right.
And before you ask a question, there were two hands up. Frank and Frank's sitting behind me. And Laurie, sorry. The closed captions are blocking your hands. I'm sorry, there. Sorry, Laurie. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay, I was wondering should we submit a correction to the minutes of that finance meeting, or? That's one question.
You mean your correct, this is Harry, you mean your correction?
About that the funds were actually used to take, we were inviting all people, we were inviting anyone in the city, across the entire city, who has disabilities or who is a family member of someone who has disabilities to come to the game. It wasn't like we took ourselves to the game. About the Celtics and
I think that's a very interesting point. Anyone want to share their thoughts on that idea? I don't know, Laurie, if that's what you wanted to talk about as well, or if you have a different
Yes,
topic.
that was the exact same thing. Thank you.
You want to give me some more feedback?
I have one more.
Anything else that you wanted to add differently, Laurie? No, okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure. Go ahead, Frank.
And I was also wondering if, to maximize transparency, we could have like a month-to-month chart on our website to say what the size of the fund is. I don't know, this might not be such a great idea, but then that would be super transparent.
Thank you for that, Sheila.
I think us coming up with the initial financial plan, and it's the first time we really created that, and I think it's really important, it's just for our own, internal workings, but I think then we can grow to things like that. Once we get it and we have it, how we wanna see it month to month, and that's what, I'll ask members too, what do you wanna see in the financial report every month? So I think that's a good idea, we can decide whether we give a summary or we give some other kind of information and where we would put that information. And certainly, I think maybe at, budget time that we do submit something, but if we have this already in process, it'd be a lot easier to take that information and sort of extract what we need to.
So the regulations for the funds actually state that the body will produce a report to get added at the end of the year into the city's report.
Annual report.
Annual report. But we need to codify all of these things in our bylaws, which I'd like to do very soon. Any other feedback? I didn't want to throw this out there and not give it some more information, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we give it time for next month so Sheila can have all of the data that we would need. Okay. Did someone else have a question before Hi, Brian.
Hey, this is Brian. My question is what is the benefit of codifying this in the bylaw? I don't follow that. Usually you don't have to codify how we spend our money in the bylaw. That's what votes are for.
Not how we spend it, but that we have access to a fund and the process in which those funds are used. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm talking more of.
I really don't think that's necessary. And it could constrain future decisions that the commission may choose to make democratically.
Okay, I appreciate feedback. Anyone else?
I had one.
So, I'm sorry, I need to go through the chair for the record. Who suggested codifying what in the bylaws?
That we have a fund,
Okay.
that there's funds that exist, what they are. And then clearly, we would have to have a discussion as to what degree or what the language may be. Brian, did you have another question? Oh, okay. Harriet?
Yeah, and this is Harriet. I just wanted to know if we were to just submit, correction of that committee meeting, to whom would we direct it? If anyone knows?
Well, we can vote and the chair can send a letter of correction. If that is something that you would like to suggest.
Yeah, to the chairperson, I guess, or whatever. Note taker, whatever. Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
Do you have something specific you'd like it to say?
Oh,
Just to clarify,
just to clarify
What was
what
there?
I had spoken about before,
okay?
that's all. The use of the funds was for inviting, residents with disabilities, families of disabilities, like that thing.
Okay. Shall
Holly.
we vote? Yes.
May I speak before we put this up for a vote?
Yes, please.
I would request that the commission consider just Holly having you reach out to Michael Mastroboni and just let him know that he made an error. He may
Okay.
want to correct it himself.
I think that sounds great.
I don't think it was a malicious error.
Oh, God,
Um,
no, not at all.
and-
None of it, no.
Yeah,
Nope.
and so since this was an honest error, going straight with an official correspondence to the chair of the finance committee seems to be a little egregious and out of proportion to the mistake. And a simple call to Michael Mastroboni would be a more effective and empathetic response.
Oh, sure, I see some hands, I agree. I didn't want to imply in any way that this was done in malice. This is, I think, just improperly worded. But the sensitivity, I understand, is being seen as we took our money and brought us to an event, which we didn't. We attended, but we brought other people too. So I think what you're saying is fair. I'm gonna let other people comment. I just want to make sure that I don't, that people are clear if I'm going to reach out to him, that I'm doing that as the group and not just as Holly. So, so many hands. I have to say, I don't know if you were first, Mike, but I have not seen your hand yet, so I'm going to call on you now, please. Thank you.
I just want to say I am in complete agreement with Brian. One of the things that I've learned with having anxiety is to know when to say something and when not to say something. And I do agree, this is not a time to make it a big deal. I love the idea of just going to the gentleman and saying, this is what we heard. We just want to make sure that's not what you believe. So that's what I think.
Okay, thank you. I saw Harriet, Adrian, and
Yeah, I just have one quick thing.
And
I
I think-
apologize because I wasn't inferring that it needed to go through an official channel, and I'm all about not triangulating conversations. So going straight to Michael Mastroboni sounds absolutely perfect. So my apologies for the confusion.
Adrian, did you want to add?
I did. To Brian's point, Director Mastroboni had reached out to me last week or before this, to just get clarification, like what was X amount for. And so I gave him this was in a team chat, very bare bones information, like X amount of money for July 2023 Disability Pride Night at the Boston Red Sox, Celtics game event, and then this year Disability Pride Night at the Boston Red Sox, and the amount. So to Brian's point, I think he was just like, it was just as simple of they went to the baseball game. And based on the amount, I assure you, finance is aware that based on invoices, because it's on record that you took X amount of people to the baseball game, because that's reflected. So Holly, of course, I give you autonomy if you want to reach out to Mike, or I can certainly help with that conversation. But, you know, he was prepared to go in sort of just with data and information, not really trying to elaborate on, you know, because that's what they want to know. So we led with Disability Pride Night. So I did not witness, I wasn't watching that particular hearing.
You didn't
so-
do anything wrong.
Yeah. So-
No one did anything wrong. I
Yeah.
think if we had this report and this process in place next year, then that would be the document.
Yeah.
And then it could certainly be presented, or it would be a resource.
But I do agree with Brian that, you know, that either an email or a conversation saying, you know, we just wanted to be known that we took X amount of people to this baseball game, or I can clarify that tomorrow. It's, you know, I
reach
don't
out
think
to them.
anybody thinks that you're just, you know, doing social outings and keeping to yourself and not inviting others from the community at all. I don't think that-
I will make a nice call to him tomorrow. Laurie, you had your hand up.
Yeah, regarding this point, I agree. It was an honest mistake and, you know, no ill intent. However, it is in the official records now, if I am understanding correctly. So people who will recall, you know, that discussion or recall reading it, I think there should be an official announcement that that was an error, and that go on the page itself where he's reporting, you know, maybe, I don't know how they do it with an asterisk or something, and this was incorrectly stated that it was for the members of the commission. We regret
So
the error.
I think I have a fix for this. So there was a recording, and it was said there, and there's a transcript of the recording, but they haven't posted their minutes yet. So maybe, I'll figure out what's proper procedure, but maybe in the minutes can be amended to correct it there. Not sure.
Okay.
We definitely don't want to, single this individual out, but I agree, we do want to make sure that the record is accurate, and maybe we just have to see how it is in the minutes, so.
Yes, I agree. We don't want to single that person out. And also, since it's in the recording, it should be amended in the recording, you know, asterisk or however it's done.
Okay, I will take this to Mike and figure out what is the simplest way. And maybe even tonight or tomorrow, those minutes will be posted. I have to say, his job is, during this time, must be insane. The amount of details and data and information that individual and everyone is doing. If you have a moment to sit in and watch these hearings that are going on, they've been going on. There are several more planned. It is a huge, heavy lift and process for so many people, and it's every single department. Brian, you guys are up tomorrow or next night? You might
Monday.
have it Monday. It's a lot of work. Okay. Moving on. Where were we? Harriet, I think?
Oh,
No, Sheila. you were-
already, my turn.
1 second. I interrupted your presentation, Sheila.
No, actually, I think that we sort of, I think I concluded it and people kind of, you know, added some more information, so. Just to know next month, and if people have thoughts about projects or initiatives, you know, it'd be a good time to talk about that.
Any other questions for Sheila before we move on? Okay. Harriet, you are back.
Thank you. First off, Helen, can you read the captions okay? Are they going okay for you? Helen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good. So we have a communications collaboration access with Adrian and sometimes with Hoffman, who's the communications person, and sometimes occasionally with Stephen Fly. And main things to report on are that Stephen related to me that not only is the embosser in hand, and I believe moved over to the TAB building, to the new office where the Council on Aging is, but also the city has been able to acquire what's called a quieting cabinet because the impact of embossing thick paper for braille is quite loud. And having done some research on our own, Frank and I found out that Germany is known for its excellent quieting cabinets. In fact, we couldn't find any others for the most part that we could order or could be ordered. So I'm in high hopes that we will be able to have a new full report by our next meeting, if not before. So that's A. Holly had three things. Plain language, what was the other thing? What was the third thing?
Well, communication equity, plain language, and then the Safe Streets ordinance.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The Bicycle Network Group, and I think PTAC and Safe Streets have worked together to craft an ordinance.
To amend an existing ordinance.
Yeah, to amend an existing ordinance, which, I forget who Brendan is.
Who, to whom is?
Well, Brendan, who did I asked our council president, Ben
Oh.
Ewenkampen, if he could get a Word document that would be possible for me to read. And he was able to have someone send it to me. And fundamentally, it's a pretty good document. And it has a couple of places, I mean, we're long past the hearing. So I don't think we can have an effect on the actual wording of the document. But-
Actually, it doesn't get reviewed until Thursday. It's on city council's, agenda.
No, but this is Harriet. My question is, there are certain times when they're ready to hear, clarifications or changes. So I certainly would try to do it, and I'll tell you the points. The points are, I'm not gonna get this exactly right, but it does protect, all existing HP parking spaces. And there's sort of some conditionalities to this too. They shall not be removed to make public parking spaces. That's a good thing. But then there's, and they also say that they should be increased. Frank, there was one more piece in that wording about the parking spots.
Yes. Through the chair.
Oh, please.
So we noticed that it said we cannot reduce HP parking by converting them to regular parking spaces for general use. But that's very specific. It does not prevent them from just removing HP parking spaces altogether without replacing them with anything. So I worry about that. The way that it's phrased is a little unclear.
there was one other part of that too, which was, such strong conditionality on practicable and financial. And since we do have a requirement to make our city accessible, it seems to me that whatever finances are needed need to be built into each year's budget. And I would have loved to have found in this ordinance not just a report in March of 2029, but also maybe an annual update so that we have an idea. I should know whether we already have a map that's generally accessible to everybody to find where the HP parking places are. And I'm sure that parking and traffic must have it. And so that's an important part of knowing more about HP parking places. So that's just some thoughts and reflections on it. Comments, welcome, thoughts, welcome.
Sheila?
I have a question, maybe would be Adrian or Brian. So when a plan like this is in place, how does that, is there any interaction with the ADA plan that's in place as far as those kinds of requirements for parking?
I could speak to that a little.
Let's let Adrian.
I'm gonna let Brian speak first. Before that though, Harriet, I had taken your question about map of HP spots to parking, or the questions you specifically had about HP spots. And I did send that information to you on May 13th.
Thank you.
There's not a map, but they did answer your questions and there's a couple other links.
Thank you, I'll go find it.
Okay, and then I'll defer back to Brian.
Can I interrupt for one brief
Yep.
second? Are you able to display the document, or is that something?
It's an email, so I can.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I meant the Safe Street.
I don't have it up currently and I can't do that while trying to take minutes because it's a Word document.
Yeah,
I can't share and take minutes at the same time.
Got it. Am I able to share it?
Yeah, you're a co-host, you should be able to share it.
Brian, please go ahead. I'm gonna see if I can figure out with Frank's help how to take this and post it for laptop or share it. It would have been, sorry, Brian, I apologize for talking over you.
Yeah, Holly, do you want, I'll go ahead. This is Brian. Sheila, could you restate your question so I can know what it does?
Yeah. I'm just curious when these ordinances are done, created, whatever, reviewed, is there any interaction between that and what we have as an existing ADA plan or ADA regulations in general that would kind of intertwine with making sure that these are in compliance?
Right. So the ordinance itself neither conflicts nor directly supports, if you will, our transition plan. But the ordinance does bring in the transition plan as a reference document. It brings that transition plan in a generic sense so that we can update the transition plan and it continues to be valid. And the reporting system that's in the ordinance proposed is an annual reporting mechanism with an intent that it not only reports on the bicycle network plan, but also reports on the Vision Zero plan as well as the transition plan. So the intent is for this to be a safe streets ordinance, not just a separated bicycle facility ordinance. Now it's also expected to be revised in time as the transition plan is improved, as our Vision Zero plan is improved, so that any new elements would be incorporated into this ordinance.
Thank you. Jody, excuse me.
One thing that I had a question about in section 12-116.3 bicycle lane installation, it talks about, thank you. Whenever improvements are made to a public street, the city shall cause such improvements to comply with the bicycle network plan, provided that if improvements are made to a segment of a public street designated for a protected bike lane in the Somerville Bicycle Network Plan, a permanent separated bicycle lane shall be installed along that segment. The directionality of such permanent separated bike lane shall be as specified in the Somerville Bicycle Network Plan or greater. Full compliance with the provisions of A, which is what I read, is not required where the city of Somerville can demonstrate through a written alternatives analysis to be made public why it is impractical to comply with the provisions of above, and where there will be a loss of connectivity if the provisions of above are not complied with, how connectivity could be otherwise advanced if possible. Full compliance with provisions of this will be considered impractical only in those rare circumstances when the city of Somerville determines that the characteristics of the physical features or usage of a street or financial constraints of full compliance prevent the incorporation of a permanent separated bicycle lane with directionality as specified in the Somerville Bicycle Network Plan or greater. Wait a minute. Can you help me understand what that means without it being in legal content? People are laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing at the language, it's too hard to
No,
understand.
but it's written the way it has to be written. But can you simplify it if you're able, Brian?
Yeah, sure. This is Brian Polstoway.
Like an example, maybe.
Oh, I don't know if I could come up with an example off the top of my head, though.
Okay.
But the intent here is to acknowledge that the bicycle network plan was never designed per se. Like, there's not 100% construction documents for every single component of the bicycle network plan. And so as we go through the design process and we go through and talk to the community, design the system, we may find that the bicycle network plan did not consider a certain aspect, because it's not a 100% design plan. It's a planning document, and you can't think of every possible implication or result that will happen in executing a plan. So my understanding of this clause is just to say, if there is an unintended consequence of doing this that we as a community decide is not a consequence that we want to do, we have the ability and the tools with which to make those revisions.
Does anybody have any other questions or comments? Oh, hi. Helen does.
When it comes to placement of handicap spots, who makes that decision? Is it the traffic and parking department, or is it, I don't think it's the city council. Is
I
it
doubt it's
traffic and
even one
parking,
person,
Adrian?
but.
So
Go for it, Adrian. You know the answer.
He just gave you the floor.
he did, through the chair, and then he can fill in the gaps. So there are a few ways that HP spots can come into existence within the city. So first, in a primarily or predominantly residential street, somebody with a Somerville residential permit and a handicap placard that they had gone through the long process sometimes of getting through the Commonwealth can request that a regular resident spot be turned into an HP spot. And those come via traffic and parking for my approval, and I take those to Traffic Commission, which meets on the second Thursday of the month. And I have yet to not approve one. I don't have any wood to knock on, but that's how that goes. And the only way, sometimes we would have to put it in a slightly different location, you know, if it's not big enough, or if, the curb's coming in or egress is a driveway, you know, we have to look at that. The other way this happens is sometimes businesses will come to us, or maybe via city council or the city staff, and say, you know, we've been talking to so-and-so who owns a store on such and such avenue, and we seem to get a lot of people who are using walkers or have mobility devices, and they've been coming in and telling us that they have to park at an HP spot further down the road because there's not one close enough. But I noticed we have, you know, a permanent parking spot in front of the store. Is there a way that can be turned over? So sometimes we can do things that way. When it comes to, I would say, newer projects, I am, where I can, involved in those conversations, especially when it comes to bicycle lanes, because sometimes if they're protected bicycle lanes, we have to adjust parking as a whole, not just HP parking. So where can we make that up? If we're moving parking or have to eliminate parking. So that's where I come in. I don't know if Brian wants to elaborate.
Can I just ask one
Sure.
question about that? So there's 100 spaces and there are 5 accessible spaces, let's say. And then we get rid of some spaces for a bike lane.
Mhm.
And then they say, oh, but there's only 90 spaces, so we only need 4 handicap spots. So what happens is we deplete the amount of accessible spaces because we're going off of a raw value of spots that initially were in place, but now that we've added bike path, we're still not allowing those 5% of people that needed a spot are getting down to like 3%. Because we're looking at, we took a bunch out, so now we don't have to refigure the math. And as we lower and lower the parking, we lower the requirement for the number of units, because even though we're saying in certain documents, or I'm gleaning that in this new ordinance, that we will try not to take away an accessible spot, we will still use the metrics of a flat percentile. And that doesn't serve us.
Sure.
And I,
You know, on my way here tonight, I was on Broadway and I went past a handicap spot that is absolutely of no use to anybody. It's just as you come over the bridge from Ball Square, there's a long out of business gas station, there's no houses across the street, and then I look at, there's none in front of Atrius Health. Which makes no sense to me. And at one point in the past, they moved 2 spaces that were in the parking lot down there, the city lot, from near the building to way on the other side of the building, where if somebody's leaving who's handicapped, they really can't walk on that sidewalk anyway because it's brick. So, you know, I realize this is a little bit off subject, but I think it's an important thing to at least have somebody talk about why these things happen and can they be corrected. The fact that there's no just handicap spot in front of Atrius Health, I see people going out of there in ambulances all the time. And sometimes the ambulances can't park there because people do park there illegally. Well, I realize this ordinance is probably gonna have a lot of changes before it's ever accepted.
well, it's been recommended to be approved, and it's been recommended to be approved, And it's
Really? Oh,
Thursday
okay.
night,
I
it's
did not know that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted everyone to know that this has gone around and it is at a point where it has been moved from the committee who reviewed it positively. And now it's on the agenda for Thursday for city council to say yes. So if anyone,
Was this proposed by a city council person?
I'm not,
Yes, Brian? No?
Uh,
Yes.
Yeah, this is Brian Postway. Yes, it was,
That's how they
it
get
was
on the.
sponsored by Councilor Burnley Jr.
and Rashid, you have your hand up. Would you like to add to the conversation?
To add something, it's like an observation
Please, go ahead.
about the parking around the assembly. It happened like yesterday. I had a colleague of mine, we wanted to pay for parking on the roadside. And so happened that that friend of mine was not able to use the machine. I had the idea of how to use the machine, but I could not reach the machine. I cannot reach the machine to pay. I can swipe the card, but I can hardly read what's on the screen of the machine because it's a little bit high. And I thought that if I get into we come on a meeting like this, is something that I wanted to bring to your attention, that I don't know if all of them are like that, but the 3 machines I tried at Assembly Row, I could not read. I could not read the face of that screen on the machine. I could not
Yes,
read
we're
anything.
instructions. Yep.
Yeah. It's not reachable to a wheelchair user, to a standard wheelchair user.
Because they're too tall.
Yes. I even took a picture of it.
That's a very good point.
I'll share with you, maybe not today, but they are not accessible at all. I thought maybe there could be one that is accessible, but none of them were accessible.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No.
But I would love to see that picture. We talked about parking so the city has a handicap spot, someone illegally parks in it, it's a street spot, or it's, let's say, CVS on Medford Street and Somerville at Magoon, because that's a city parking lot. You get a ticket, you can get towed. If you park illegally at Market Basket in a parking space, in a handicap spot, what happens? Because from what I understand, we do not have the ability to step on there.
That's a private lot. The city would not be able to enforce in a private lot. Correct, Brian? Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
Yeah.
So what happens?
I don't know. I can find out for you. I don't know what happened.
Adrian, I think it'd probably be good for you to look into it, but my understanding is that violation of federal law or of any law on private property would have to be, you would have to take them to court, basically.
Yeah.
Because we wouldn't have jurisdiction, the city wouldn't have jurisdiction to fine them.
So, but the law says you have to have accessible parking, you have to have so many in a parking lot, they have to be located in a certain place, they have to be a certain size, they have to have a certain signage. Does it just say reserved? It doesn't say you'll get towed? Is that like the rest of the sign is the decision?
No, Holly,
on Market Basket, but.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the private property is, but the city, if a property owner has not built their property or does not operate their property legally, like they don't have the appropriate parking signs and so forth, then yes, we can, our ISD department can fine them, but we can't fine them we're not allowed to tow things from their property. We're not allowed to ticket on their property. We're not allowed to do anything on their property. And so it's really up to the property owner to enforce the use of other individuals on their property.
Yeah, I wasn't implying that the city would go after
But how would
the
they
vendor,
enforce it?
but how does?
I thought
how-
that's exactly what you were asking. So
Oh,
maybe
no,
I
no,
didn't
no, I'm
answer
sorry.
the question.
No, I was just like, hold on, like I'm Mr. Market Basket. Why don't I just say I'm a grocery store and I have I own my lot, my business, but it's a public lot. People come in, I have to follow the laws. You know, the city's making sure that my zoning, my licenses, my permits, everything is where it should be. I understand the city can't ticket or police the parking lot inside of outside of a grocery store on a property that we don't own, but how do we fix that, or how do we make it so that we're not even looking at if they have the right amount of spaces also?
We can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
We can
So
do
we can
that
look at-
because those are private property rights and
With
they are
public
legislative that our ISD has. But what we can't do is if, let's say and I'm not disabled and I do not have a placard, if I were to drive onto that private property that has a grocery store and I choose illicitly to park in a handicap parking space, there's nothing the city can do to stop me from doing that. The
And the
private
city-
property owner could tow my car. Any other person could bring suit against me in
Under
civil
that.
case, but I don't believe there's anything that the city could do.
I will look it up.
But yeah, Adrian, I think that would be a good thing to look at.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
Helen, did you want to say more on that?
I just wonder if anywhere, any municipality has attempted to make an agreement with private property owners that the traffic and parking people could go onto the land, onto the lot.
That might be a question for the CODA meeting.
I didn't hear what you said.
For the CODA meeting?
There's a state, Massachusetts, for council, let me start over. Disability commissions in Massachusetts have a monthly meeting where all the cities and towns get together and share information.
So another city may have an idea about how they've done that, or if it's come up, which I'm sure it has.
Now, the other cities use parking apps, and if you snap a picture and someone's parked illegally on a street, in a driveway, in a grocery store, it doesn't say you can't, and that generates a ticket. I know we don't, but I don't know how we could have a conversation with parking about using things like that.
I think the conversation respectively would have to start if we in fact can enforce before we try to put a system in place to be able to do that.
Agreed. That's what I was saying, is there are systems, but maybe we can have a conversation with traffic and parking about using those systems.
Yeah, I will check in, given the time of year. I don't want to give away colleagues' time until probably late June or early July to start anything new.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe then we can discuss what our concerns are. I'm sorry, Harriet, I didn't notice you had your hand up.
I just took it up.
About, how do we ensure that people who come into the city, residents or otherwise, and visit here can safely park in a handicapped spot in the lot, and have access, and also that the meters are at the right height and are accessible. Go ahead, Harriet.
I was just gonna ask Adrian and Brian, so for example, this problem with the height of the meters in Assembly Square Mall, would Morsheed then report that specifically to traffic and parking as an issue? Or, how should that be, should these problems be worked on? And the second question is, I think there are some private properties that do tow. So I don't think it's across the board that they don't tow, but I don't know. Anyway, but the first part is how to report such a problem as what Murshid was saying, or to whom and how.
Well, that would go to me, because,
Put a square toes.
Yeah.
Because that's private property.
yeah. Yeah, I can look into the height of parking meters. That is something tangible that I can do. Again, there's a bigger conversation to be had about private parking and how that works. Because as we said, sometimes it falls on the property owner. If he wants, right now, if he wants to, he or she, they or them, whoever, want to go out there 4 or 5 times a day and, peek around or look for a plate, and then call a towing company that they would have, but, I don't think, especially grocery store owners, have that capacity to go out. I am not sure what happens if, say, just a citizen who was looking for a spot in the market basket and they pulled in and they were able to get out and look and they discovered, I can't remember how many are in our market basket, but say there's 3 and they get out and look and nobody who's parked there has the credentials to park there. So what would that look like if they reported it to the owner and the owner, could do something, or on the other case, could refuse to do something because they don't want to take the time to do it. So it's a bigger conversation that we can look into.
I'm gonna bring us, I don't see any more hands. I'm gonna bring us back a minute to the ordinance, and the changes that are in there. It has gone through committee, it is on the agenda for this Thursday night. And, if residents want to be there to say something about it, or want to ask their city councilors about it, if you have a strong opinion about it, that's why I wanted it shared. If we as a committee, as a commission, have a strong opinion about it, we can send a letter if we have concerns about how parking will be maintained. I'd like to understand how the ADA transition plan and the work that needs to be done to maintain our streets and sidewalks and crosswalks, that's very much in the rears, how that is getting prioritized over new projects, because that's not getting caught up. We are very, very far behind. Even if we, and the transition plan hasn't been updated. I know that, do you wanna share that little bit? I don't wanna speak.
It's not, it's not on the agenda, Holly. We can't have discussions that aren't on the agenda.
So Adrian, where are we with the ADA transition plan?
I will have a conversation about that with you tomorrow. It's not an agenda item. You need to move on through your agenda.
I'm confused. I can't ask you about the ADA transition plan?
If it's not, I'm happy to have a discussion about it, but it's not on the agenda for this evening, and it's 8:30, and through the chair, you need to move on with your agenda. Or we can talk about it tomorrow in our check-in.
This is Harriet. Well, I just want to say the following, it's just a comment, that the transition plan is from 2013. And I know there's been a call from people, including us, any members of our group, our commission, to elect to sit on that task force for the process of the update. That's all I have to say. Thanks. And we should move on, you're right.
Harriet, are you all set with your group?
The last thing I was gonna say, I think we'll have to table it till next time, but I'd like everybody to think about the fact that we are in a really between a rock and a hard place, because almost every document that we'll find on a city website like our own, it is not presented in plain language. And there are links and websites that will help us grade it. And in fact, maybe we can put that in the notes. They can grade whatever you write, for example, or what you read as to the level of education And most of ours is around, graduate school level. So just to put a little note on it. But I would like everyone to think about plain language, and we'll have a good discussion about it, if not July for sure, in August. But let's attend to looking at it, listening to it, thinking about it. Thank you.
So the accessible trails, I sent an email update about where they are in their quest to have a bill passed through the Senate. And initially, we voted to write a letter in support of the bill and also to sign on as a group in support of this accessible trails. And at the time, we were added to the list as a supporter, but they weren't in a place with legislation to need us to physically send in a letter, but that has since changed. So I drafted a letter. I'm gonna read it to you now, and then we're gonna send it off. In my capacity as chair of the Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities, and on behalf of our 12-member body, I ask for your full support of Bill S-446 and urge you to take immediate action to get this bill to the Senate floor for vote. And then I have a paragraph that Deborah wrote. Spending time in nature has been shown to have great benefits to both one's physical and mental health. But many people with physical disabilities are prevented from using current trails due to the size and grade of their construction. Accessible trails that accommodate wheelchair and other mobility device users are a matter of equity for all. Please support this bill to allow all of Massachusetts residents to enjoy the benefits of our trails. The last piece that I was going to add that another member pointed out to me is that there are currently 4,000 miles in the DCR. There are many miles of trails in Massachusetts, and there are only 4,000 feet that are currently accessible. So I'm gonna send that letter out, and when it's finalized, I'll have it be part of the meeting records for this meeting, unless anyone has any other questions or wants it to say something different. Cool, moving on. There is an event coming up in October by the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Persons with Disabilities. That's a permanent, fully funded commission through the state. And October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And I'm not proposing that we have a Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities National Disability Employment Month celebration, but I think that we should recognize that it is that month, and if anyone would like to sign up or have more information, I shared that event as meeting materials. Because we all know how important it is for employment. Right, Pauline? Mm-hmm. Okay. We had a great night at the scholarship event. At the last minute, I had to fill in for Miss Deborah. And what we did was we did a quick who we are, and then we broke it into 4 groups. And each of us presented 3 students with their scholarships. And it was great to do it together as a team, and it was super exciting because everyone did it different. Mike had his approach, I had mine, Ingrid had hers. Harriet went last, and she closed explaining what it's like to be as a blind person and the importance of education, which ended with a standing ovation. So it was quite impactful. These kids were over the moon, and it was really, really amazing. And I just want to thank everyone. Even if you didn't have the chance to read an application or to be there that night, just you agreeing and voting to support these students is so very appreciated.
How many were there? This is Pauline.
Hi, Pauline, this is Holly. There were 12. They chose 12 students this year, and each student received $5,500.
And one other little, this is Harriet, thing is that the students had no idea, since the larger foundation for scholarships in the high school people applied generally, and then they gave us 25 with no ID to them, but people who either were disabled, people who had family members disabled, or had taken interest and interned or worked with people with disabilities, were our candidates that we went through. So the choice was challenging, as Sheila and Deborah and I would say, they did the bulk of the work. And those kids were amazed that we gave them, because most of the scholarships could be anywhere from 500 to 1,000, maybe 1,800, but 5,500, which Holly announced at the end too, which I thought that was great.
Yeah, our process, we do not promote we are listed as a scholarship, but the criteria is not listed. And we don't look at the full application. We only use what the essays are, so that, you know, we're not making choices for anything other than what they're physically sharing with us about disabilities or education, or what they may have struggled with, or why they're inclined to go into careers that help people with disabilities. So we're kind of like that little bit, we're known, but we're a little bit of a mystery, I guess you could say. We have two other things to talk about. I think we talked about the swings is on hold at the moment, and next month in July, we're gonna have Allison and her team come out and talk with us about how we're gonna partner and get swings in parks. The next thing I have here is remote versus in-person meetings. When the commission was 7 people before we expanded to 13, and then we, in between that, became hybrid and we started meeting in person. There are a lot of advantages for us to be in person. For people like myself and for others, communication can be complicated, the technology can be difficult, and really don't, it's hard to understand each other when we're in Brady boxes. And the purpose of having the ability for people to be remote is if they have a reason in which they can't be in person. If there is a medical reason, or they can't get there, not as much as you can simply choose to be remote. And I don't want to say that everyone needs to be remote, and I don't want to say that people can't be remote, but I really want people to consider the importance of being here once a month for 2 hours in person. And I also want to acknowledge that when we changed the time of these meetings years ago, and then we added on to the time and we chose a date, that was outside of this group. And I'm wondering if changing the day or the time of these meetings would help people and enable them to be in person. So I just wanted to open up the conversation to, we added the ability to get reimbursed if you need to take transportation to get here. We'll reimburse any of our members or anyone in the public who needs accessible transportation. Is there a different day? Is there a different time? What would be helpful so that people could be here? We could have meetings at 6 o'clock. We could have them on a different day of the week. I think the majority of people work, and probably during the day wouldn't be as accessible, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is a better time.
This is
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
Hello.
1 second, Harriet.
Hi, this is Nick. Speaking only for myself, I think maybe starting at 6 would be a little easier, but it is difficult. I know myself and Ingrid, for example, have like 2 little boys running around, which makes it a little harder. But Zoom works for me if it works for other people, but I know that's a slight issue.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else have any?
I
Oh,
would-
sorry.
I think 6 o'clock is a better time also.
Okay, we have 2 votes for 6 o'clock. Any other feedback or anything you would, anything else you'd like to add that could be different?
I'm sorry,
Is there a different day that would make it easier?
6 to 8, yeah.
But other than a Tuesday, would like, if this was on a Wednesday, that would make things easier? No? Okay. Harriet?
I'd like to suggest that we keep this in mind, and then we go, get feedback between times, and that we get clearer about it in our next meeting. Mostly in the service of talking about the Pride Month as minutes tick off. I don't know, how do other people feel? That's just my thought.
Oh,
Thank you.
Ingrid had her hand.
I'm sorry, Ingrid, do you want to add something?
Hi, I'm just gonna echo what Nick said about, yeah, it's kind of the witching hour when you have little kids, so it's a really tricky time. But just personally, if anybody is moved toward Wednesday or Thursday, quiet. I would prefer to do Wednesday or Thursday, and 6 o'clock would be great.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna move off of that topic, and we're gonna slide right into Disability Pride Month, which I have a plethora of information to talk about. And one thing I have concerns about is if we have enough funding, if we voted for enough money for the items that we're doing, and if we need to revote. Were you, the permit process for the 11th,
So the permit's been submitted, I'm waiting on next steps.
does it go, I didn't see it on Thursday's city council.
I have a question out about that, I didn't see it either. I will check again tomorrow, but I haven't gotten a response.
On Tuesday, the 9th is our regular meeting, and we're gonna have public parks and urbans, help me with the,
Forestry?
Urban forestry.
yes, urban forestry, Allison, and members of her team at that meeting, and we'll be talking about accessible swings. We'll also be talking about parking at that meeting. So those will be almost as if they were, disability pride related, because they're more equity issues in a sense, swings and accessible parking. And then, but that's our regular meeting. And then on Wednesday, the 10th at 1:30, there is a kids movie being played at the West. Thank you, Mike, for securing that location. Did you decide on what movie was going to be played? Didn't have it written down.
How to Train Your Dragon.
In the Dragon, cool, okay.
What is it called?
I trained the dragon, I think.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Wow.
It was close. Thank you for managing that and getting that confirmed. I believe the only thing that we need for that event is some popcorn. And then, the cone cards for the kids. Is that correct, Mike?
Well, you had come up with a whole bunch of other ideas, so whatever you think is great, that would be great.
Oh, no, just for that particular event.
No, I knew what you said, yeah, no, but I'm saying you came up with some other ideas, so whatever you get is great.
So it's Wednesday, the 10th?
Food, yes, Wednesday the 10th.
But what time, do we have a time on that?
1:30 to 2:30. I think that was 1:30 to
3:30.
Thank you. That was because we were talking about the tchotchkes. That's what we mean, the items for the kids. I'll go over that piece in a second. And then we are hopefully, we'll have our permit approved for Thursday, the 11th at 5:30 to do a flag raising at City Hall. And I hope everyone will be able to come. And on Saturday, the 13th, we were approved for a table or tables at Artbeat. We have to have a participatory art activity, and we're working on a multi-sensory art project for that. And on the 24th of June, it's a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. The Council on Aging's regular pizza movie day is going to be showing the movie Coda, followed by a discussion with the Disability Commission that Mike and Ingrid, Mike also scheduled and managed that. Thank you very much, Mike. And I believe for that, that evening or that afternoon, the pizza, the movie, we were just gonna have sort of a giveaway for the guests that attend at that event after the discussion. I don't have in my notes that we needed anything else for that day. Do you agree, Mike?
That is correct.
Thank you. On Saturday, July 27th, we're having a family day event at the West Library. And the library is open from 9 to 1. So what we have, I'd say that's our, Art Beat is a long day, and I'll go back to that particular event. But at Family Day at the West Library, hold on, I'm gonna correct myself again. So Saturday on the 27th is Family Day at the West Library. The following Monday, the 29th, is a book event that Mike will be reading from his book, and Laura Bretsky will be reading from her book. That is a book that is an event that is happening during Disability Pride Month. We have a member of our commission who is participating in that, and I hope whoever is available is able to attend. That is not a commission-sponsored event. It is a commission-celebrated event, I think is
What
we
date
would
is
say. That is the 29th.
Wait, which is, no, the Saturday morning family, or no, the Monday?
The Monday,
Oh, the Monday.
the Laura and Mike book
Yeah.
event, and that's in the evening. That is also at the West Library, and I don't have it written down what time.
Where is the West Library?
Davis.
Oh, okay.
Mike, do you know what
I think
time?
it's 7 o'clock, isn't it, Mike? This is Harriet.
Mike's got his phone, I'm sure he's checking that. So those are the items, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 13th, the 24th, the 27th, and the 29th.
I have
Wait a
from
minute.
6 to 8,
6 to 8.
but it would be on, if you want, I could check the sign, but I'm pretty sure, I wrote 6 to 8. So.
Okay.
This is Harriet, and that means I think it's a 1 hour total event, because I think they close at 9, is that incorrect?
We can double check that part. And I'll make sure that everyone has this list before we have our July meeting, because things will already be in the swing by then. So the meeting on the 9th, that's our regular meeting. The kids movie event on the Wednesday at the library. Thursday night, flag raising, Art Beat, Council on Aging, and then the Family Day at the West Library. So I'm gonna go back to the 27th again. So what we're doing.
Ali.
Yeah.
It is at 7 to 9.
Okay,
Or
thank you.
7 to 7.
Appreciate that, okay. And I wanna make sure that we all have an opportunity to support everyone who has an event that's happening during the month. So on the 27th, we're gonna have book readings. There's gonna be time set up in the morning where 3 separate books geared at small-aged kids, school-aged kids will be read. I believe Ingrid's gonna read one, Mike, and if there are other people that wanna help and read a book to these kids. And then I have that starting at 10. And then at 11, Mike has his book, a different book that he's written that he's going to read from, as well as a second older sort of middlers, is that the right word?
I was only going to read one. I was only
Okay.
gonna read, yeah.
And for middle schoolers, is that right?
Yes, for middle school aged kids. So there's sort of the two parts of the afternoon. There's the little kids part and then the older kids part. Whatever books we're reading to them, we're gonna be giving them a book to go home with, so they can leave with a book. And we're gonna have 2 art projects going on at the library during this event, which is only 3 hours or 2 hours. We're gonna have friendship bracelets that kids can make and adults can make. And we also have rocks that can be painted, kid-safe paint. And then we're gonna take them outside and spray them with highly toxic shellac, let them dry, and then give them back to the kids so they can take them home. The librarian said that we can leave these rocks in the garden if the kids would like to leave them there, or we can leave them there in the garden for a little bit of time, and then we can get them back to the kids, whatever, if they would like to, or they can take them home. Adults can paint a rock. We can have examples of things that can be put on the rocks. Rashid, I see your hands up.
I would like to be one of the readers.
I would love that, thank you.
Mhm.
We'll make sure you have that information. Okay.
I have a question. This is Pauline. Has any thought been given to having someone read from a Braille book?
Thank you, it's as if you read my mind.
Yeah,
I would love it if you would read from the Braille book.
I'd love
because
it.
We're in the process of locating the books that have been suggested and other books that are, I'm gonna say it wrong, Harriet.
Braille print books, I have a few, and I think, I'll.
One of the best series that I know of, because I tutored a friend of mine years ago, the Magic Treehouse series by Mary Pope Osborne. It's geared for children preschool to 8 years old or something like that.
Cool, so,
Pauline, do you know if the National Braille Press has done a print and Braille copy by any chance?
right, no idea, but we are gonna find out.
Yeah,
So for those who don't know what a print and Braille copy is, imagine a book that has been separated, and then the pages are put back together, and then in between is a sheet, a clear sheet that goes on top of that page, and it has the Braille embossed. So the person who's reading the book, one person can be using the Braille, and the other person can be seeing the pictures, or they can be doing it all together. So it's a print embossed book. So we're gonna be ordering a couple of those so that we have them. It'd be nice if we could give them copies to the library. We'll also have copies of them at Artbeat at our table of these embossed and printed books. Love to have you read one of the stories. And then kids and families have the art projects going on at the same time. Every 20 minutes we'll be doing a different book. And then the child can take that book home with them, or the adult, and then there'll be a table that'll be sort of a resource table. Information, resources for our families, people with disabilities, and also we're gonna have our guest typewriter at that same table, who will be making secret messages that can be decoded using her typewriter of Braille.
Yeah, I also have, ABC cards with the symbols for what makes a number or a little bit of punctuation. So you could give a child a card, and then I'll write like very short, one sentence, simple sentence for decoding. And I suppose we should have pencils so they can write down.
So we've got, we're trying to tie everything to the 5 colors that are part of the Disability Pride flag and what each stands for. Ingrid was able to find books that cover each of those different topics. Not because we're gonna say this is the book about this emotion, or this is the book about this disability, but just so that we're we're making sure that we're covering things for all of those 5 different parts of the flag for Disability Pride. Mike had a great idea to get ice cream cones or ice cream at the event or cone cards from JP Licks. We put in a request for them to donate cards to us, so a little kitty cone. You come to the library, you sit through a book reading, you get a book, and we'll slide a cone card in it for you. And you can go around the corner afterwards and have your ice cream, and the library stays clean. Or your mother might take the card and, or parent or whomever, and say, we're gonna go next week, but then they can have an ice cream afterwards. If we can't get them for free, I have, hopefully I should have heard back from them today, what it would cost us to buy a cone card for these kids who come to the several different events, so they can leave with an ice cream. I need help. Sounds like I have some great people ready to help read. In addition to the people we already have, I need people who are there who are okay to have dirty fingers with paint or have the patience to help with a bead. What I'll do, because of the time that it is I will send out an email with updates on these events and where I need help with making sure there are people to staff it. The bigger event that needs help really is Art Beat, and we're gonna have a table, and Art Beat's open from 11 to 6. And what we're looking for, if there are local artists with disabilities or persons in the city who maybe their art is about disabilities, but they don't have a disability, who would like to display something on our table. We'll have the bracelets at the table available. We're probably gonna put them in like sandwich bags so that if someone doesn't have the time to sit at a table and work on a little bracelet, they can take it home with them. We'll also have the rocks that they can paint and take home. And then we're gonna have a tactile group participatory art activity. That's part of everyone who has a table at Art Beat. And we're gonna be using different textiles, textures, sounds, maybe scents, and putting them together on these boards. And we'll have a long, I don't know if it's gonna be a roll or a sheet where people can add to a story or draw something or leave a message. So
Like a collage, right?
yeah, like a collage, but it'll be, the collages will be individual and tactile. And then we'll have materials for each of the different colors of the pride flag. So I'll have a bin of red things, maybe there's some buttons, maybe there's some fabric, maybe there's a red zipper or something else, and people can choose from those, what do they want to put on their project sheet. They don't have to do one from each color, they don't have to know what those colors are. We're just trying to sort of use that as our cohesive theme for what we're doing to celebrate and recognize disability pride. So I am gonna need help with people who wanna come and sit at the table, talk about what we're doing. We have some amazing artwork that's already been done, posters for the movie event, and we're gonna need some also for these other events that are coming up.
So when people look at your, this is Harriet, look at your calendars. See if you could take a slot of time. We're gonna have 2 tables, like a double booth, and we're gonna have 6 chairs, and we're going to have, that we get from Art Council, which is wonderful, as a part of RSJ, and then we need to get our own tent or canopy, perchance it's a little damp, and if it's really damp, then we'll be changing it to Sunday, 24th. So look at your calendar, see who will come in for some period of time. Hopefully you and I will not be chained to the table for 6 hours, Holly, but we'll work it out, you know.
And then this can probably wait till our July meeting, unless we get some traction before then. We did have a great meeting with comms, the larger comms and public service announcements. People who would like to have something recorded about Disability Pride Month or a specific subject matter, things that can be played throughout the month of July. And they can be spots that we do going forward as part of sort of our outreach to the community as members of the commission. So as soon as I get some information on what those are like, if anyone has any interest, Rashid, do you want to do a PSA, a public service announcement? Or someone else, anyone?
So where would those appear, like,
They would be on, city's
City
TV,
cable?
yes. And I think they'd also, I mean, you've done some, Adrian, they could be shown on social, on YouTube, or
Oh,
they'd be
right.
in the city channels, there's all different ways. We just need people who are comfortable, doing a very short public service announcement.
I could do it, I could do
This is,
You
this
would?
is,
sure.
this is Mike. I would be happy to do one.
Yeah, this is Ingrid. I'll do it.
Oh my goodness, we got Ingrid, we got Mike. Was that a yes from you, Sheila?
oh, that was just a question.
Oh,
but
okay,
I'll
sure.
think about it.
All right. Pauline.
Did I hear Nick too? Or was it Michael, Ingrid, Pauline?
Oh, I got
Nick's got
Nick
thumbs
also.
up.
Okay, I don't want to put people on the spot. But there's plenty of time. They're short. They don't have to be complicated. It would be your own subject, your own words, and however you feel comfortable doing it. And it's not doing it with me, it would be doing it with the person from the city's comms department who works in that city TV group. So it would be a skilled person.
It might be Grace Taylor, Denise Taylor's assistant or something like that.
No, it will be Steve.
Steve.
So you'll get back to us on that, Holly?
Yeah.
This is Mike. You'll get back to us on that?
Yes, Mike, I will. I promise.
This is Lori. I have to leave now.
Yeah,
Bye.
it's 9:03.
Thank you, Laurie. Appreciate it. You have a good night.
Thank you, you too. Take care.
Bye. Okay, I'm gonna move that we adjourn. Hold on
Did you
though.
wanna vote for money, or do you wanna?
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna meet the 9th of July. Is that too late?
Did we ever find in our minutes, our notes, last meeting, what we did vote for in terms of amount?
$3,000.
Three, right? Frank's three.
3,000.
I'm gonna, put a motion forward that we increase it from $3,000 to $5,000.
Well, you can just vote another 2,
Oh, okay, I'm gonna vote that.
because we already approved the 3.
That we vote for $2,000 additionally to bring it up to 5. I do not think we will need that, but I would be very upset if we had $3,040 worth of items and struggle with that.
Just to give yourself a cushion.
Well, yeah, to give us a cushion, also not knowing how many events we're gonna be able to have.
Yeah,
The goal is that the materials for the different art projects, of which there are 2 projects and then the one additional one for Art Beat, are used throughout the month. So we're not, we're not reinventing them, we're just sort of bringing 50 here and 75 there. And then the same with the cone cards that we will have at the movie and at the library family event. So those we would need about
where are
100
they showing Coda?
at the Council on Aging.
Oh,
What date was that?
you mean there's gonna be room up there?
I will make sure you have a seat. I will bring you. Well, actually, I don't know if I can bring you, but I will make sure that, yes, Wednesday, the 24th at 1 p.m.
The only thing about that, but I guess it's still okay, is that if we have to have Art Beat on Sunday, but we'll just manage anyway.
Okay, so so I'm putting a motion forward that we approve $2,000 additional for the month of July for Disability Pride Month.
I second.
Any discussion?
I just want to quickly say, to be transparent and to be on the film, to say that even though I'm doing it as a citizen, the potential is that you might be buying some of my books. So I am going to abstain because I might be a conflict of interest and I don't want to vote, even if it's a small part of it. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you, Michael. And I'm not sure if we can buy your books or not, but I appreciate your you're abstaining for those reasons. I respect that highly. Okay, I'm gonna call all those in favor of spending $2,000 more on the budget for Disability Pride Month. All please say aye.
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 Any opposed? One abstain. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I'm also going to motion that we convene the meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Sheila is my second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. We are convened, and I have lost my
You mean adjourned?
adjourned. Oh my goodness.
I was wondering, wait a minute.
Adjourned.
We are adjourned, officially adjourned. Thank you.
Bye.